What is up, everyone? Newest edition of Caught Stealing, the fantasy baseball podcast here at fantasyalarm.com. I'm Colby Conway at Colby R. Conway over on X, formerly known as Twitter. And with me here, as always, Matt Selz at the Selz Man. Matt, we are back to once a week for the Caught Stealing episodes moving forward. So we're going to keep it up on the Thursdays. That way, talk about what happened in the beginning and early parts of the week. And then, of course, everyone's favorite waiver wire options and streamers for the weekend. If you're in week-to-week scoring leagues, we'll help you out, try to get you over the hump and get you that win in that particular week. And Matt, of course, we are at no shortage of news. Let's start with where we are contractually obliged, which is injuries. Willson Contreras hits the injured list with, I believe, what they're calling a fractured forearm after he was basically standing in front of the plate to try to catch pitches before JD Martinez had a chance at it.
I don't like, we've touched on this before. Colby used to catch. Have you ever been that close to the plate?
I hated being that close to the hitter.
I mean, there's a reason it was called catcher's interference, because it was. And earlier this week, the Cardinals had apparently talked to Contreras about getting a little closer to the plate to try to steal some more strikes. That's not usually how pitch framing works. I don't know what the Cardinals are talking about. Usually it's where you move the glove to, not how early you catch it. Because if you catch it too early, you get catcher's interference. And then, oh, by the way, you also get hit by the bat. And it wasn't even on the backswing. It was literally on the beginning of the swing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel bad for Contreras. Obviously, you don't want to see a guy get injured, but it's weird. I've never seen a catcher stand. And then John Boy's tweet about it, how it must be regulated. It's regulated. There are literally boxes around home plate where guys can stand, and it's also called catcher's interference. So you just need the Cardinals to stop being dumb. It's basically what it is.
I can tell that has never happened to me. I can tell you, even just on like the backswing, if you get hit a little bit, that hurts.
Oh, you're still getting hit in the head with a wooden bat.
That had to hurt like a you know what.
You can watch it break in the video, actually. Like, if you watch there's the clip that shows it, you can watch his forearm kind of bend, which is
disgusting.
It's never great to see. I do feel bad for Willson Contreras, but like, I don't know. Now the Cardinals are talking about how the catcher defensive problem, like, this whole Contreras signing to me for the Cardinals seems like they never really wanted him, but they kind of wanted a bat. But it's like, you watched him for 7 years in your division. You played him 18 times a year.
Mm.
You didn't know that these were problems before you signed him to a 6-year deal that was like almost $100 million?
Shame for him too. 949 OPS prior to the injury too. Was having
he
a darn good year.
He turned the bat around.
Yeah, he's one of the few Cardinals hitting. So
yeah.
But we'll talk about a potential replacement for him behind the dish. And two other injuries. Contreras, sounds about 6 to 8 weeks for him with the forearm, which all things considered isn't actually too bad.
I mean, he had to have surgery to, I mean, I think it would have been longer had he not had surgery, because it would have taken for the bone to, line up and then heal and whatever. Yeah. So the surgery shortened the timeline there.
Another 6-week absence forthcoming is Trea Turner for the Philadelphia Phillies. I believe it's a hamstring issue for him. So fantasy managers will be without him for a little bit. There's really no replacing Trea Turner. You're just trying to get by for a couple of weeks here and hope that you can kind of make do with whatever you can pick up there. But upon his return, I think he'll run. There might be a week or two after his injury. He might be a little bit slower, but I'm not worried about him being a zero in the stolen base department the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a zero. The Phillies need him to run. Like, his speed in that lineup, despite, when they hit him third last year, his speed in the lineup is what generates a lot of runs for that offense, which, by the way, has the best record in baseball at the moment. So it's a big loss for them. Obviously, big loss for fantasy. He went in the first round. Like Colby said, you're not replacing him. You're just trying to get by in the aggregate, essentially.
You're swapping in hot bats. Someone goes cold.
I'll have one of those for you here later.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's not. It's not like, oh, go pick up C.J. Abrams because he's not available.
exactly.
Yeah.
Another injury here, and this one I think is interesting to discuss. Wyatt Langford also hits the injured list with the hamstring injury. I have some thoughts here,
Go for it.
and I don't think it's a hot take by any means. But
You think he goes down when he comes back?
no, but I would not be. I think so. Here's the thing: when they called him up when he broke camp with the team,
Yes.
there was going to be some reluctancy in sending him down with the slow start. Why would they not hurt his ego when he goes on the rehab assignment? Why not let it run the full course? You're not sending him down, so you don't have that mental
Guess
game
what?
you're going to play.
21 days or something for rehab.
You can leave him down there, let him hit, reestablish himself, get confidence, and then when he's ready and healthy, he's right back up with the big league club. No harm, no foul. There's no mental hurdles in terms of, oh, I got demoted. They're not gonna have to do that game because he's on a rehab assignment.
Right.
You just want to make sure. We really want to make sure that hamstring is good. Like, we want you to get on base 4 times. Let's see 4 stolen base attempts. Once that happens, then we'll consider it. Like,
Yeah, go run a ball down 150 feet in center field. Like,
why not let him hang out for a lengthy rehab assignment and then bring him right back up after he gets a little bit of confidence? And plus, at this point, more at bats cannot hurt for him.
nope. I'm in agreement with you. Because he's kind of needed to, like, you're assuming that this is a real injury, but it also could just be one of those like he legit got, like, you could see him pull up and whatnot. But when it first happened and I hadn't seen the clip, it's like, well, does this smell of hey, he's not hitting. Hey man, your hammy's nagging, right? But he's legit hurt. He's gonna be out for a month and then we'll see. So you might be looking at like a 2-month thing here for Wyatt Langford. But I'm in agreement with you. The more at bats you can get him before he comes back to MLB live game action cannot hurt a young guy. Remember, he didn't have that much in the minor leagues. Like, he is in like uncharted territory with how fast he came up after being drafted and playing. He's in like they say he beat Bryce Harper and Juan Soto in the minor league at bats, or was somewhere around there, like just about 400. It's not even a full season across 4 levels. So I'm with you. It's not like the Rangers offense is hurting. I mean, it is kind of with some injuries, but they have dudes they can, like Ezekiel Duran just shows up off the bench and starts hitting.
Yeah.
Right. Now I do want to say, what do you make of Scherzer being shut down, like temporarily shut down on his rehab because of the thumb issue that he picked up?
I remember doing the injury report maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and they were like, "Yep, early May for Scherzer." And I looked at the calendar before the thumb even came up and
Yeah,
started
you and I
looking. I was
talked
like,
about this.
"That was not going to happen." Like,
Well, all offseason it was June, like beginning of June is probably when he's back.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden you're hearing like a 40-year-old pitcher with a back issue is going to shave a month off his. I know he's Scherzer and he's insane and he can gut through things, but
I don't love that it's involved with the throwing hand, and
yeah.
also the verbiage, because I'm looking at it here, the update that was given. He's not going to throw until it has completely subsided.
Yeah, they said he's temporarily shut down for a thumb issue.
Yep.
You never want to. I don't care if temporarily follow like comes in front of it. You never want to hear the phrase "shut down."
Yep.
that's no bueno, because then he's got to start building back up his innings again.
The longer that he is stalled or halted or shut down, basically think about like the 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It doesn't quite work like this, but he's been shut down for 5 days. That's a missed start. We got to go 1 step back. And then he missed
Right now,
another
you
5
can't
days.
count
Another
those
step
innings. You
back.
gotta redo that inning load before you jump ahead.
Yep. I'm at the point now, I don't even think early June's in the picture anymore, to be honest.
Nope.
Like, I'm
I
probably
think
a little more pessimistic.
we might be looking at July, like
It very
early
well could
July.
be. Yep. I'm not loving that. And aside from injuries, we had talked about basically, earlier in the season when we were basically right in the beginning of the season, we were talking about some players, if we're worrying, stuff like that. So, but we're a little bit removed from the start of the season. So we don't have to do, should we overreact to anymore? We're going to go to patience or panic. Are we panicking these players or are we exhibiting some patience? And we're going to start with a Toronto infielder, Bo Bichette. Last year, stolen bases were gone. Went
Right.
2010 club the year before. This year, everything's gone. That's just the only way I know how to say it. I'm looking here. 5th percent barrel rate for Bo Bichette. He's hitting 191, and his expected batting average is only 227. For frame of reference, his previous low in a season before that was 269 in 2019. Smaller sample size, but like past couple years, 312, 278, 291. Everything has just gone from him. He's still making a lot of quantity of contact. He's putting the bat to the ball. The strikeout rate is actually lower than it's ever been. But that's about the only good thing we can say from Bichette's start of the 2024 season. So are you kind of trying to give Bichette some patience, or are you internally screaming and freaking out? It's that gif of sitting there with the little dog sitting around the fire. Everything's fine.
So let's go with this a couple of ways. One, you want to guess right now where Toronto's team batting average ranks in baseball.
29th.
They're a little better. They're 22nd, but they're worse
Boy,
than the
it doesn't seem
Nationals.
like it.
They're worse than the Nationals. Like they're right around Detroit and Miami and Oakland, and I mean your Pirates are 27th, so that's not great. Surprisingly, the Reds are 30th. And that's
Yeah,
the
Pirates win games though. So
what?
Pirates win games, so it's fine.
I mean that's true. Toronto doesn't. So like they're not striking out, but their team batting average is atrocious. They're also not getting on base either because they rank basically the same spot in on base percentage. Slugging as a team also not ideal. They're 25th in slugging as a team. So I say that to say this. It's not a Bo Bichette issue. It's a Toronto issue that's been going for 2 years. Right? We all noticed it with Vladito last year. And, Bichette fell off a little bit, but then he had a better second half and he kind of saved his numbers at the end of the season. So you didn't really care. Matt Chapman fell off a cliff last year when he was there. Kevin Biggio couldn't even get on the field because he like seemingly carrying a bat was too hard for him to do. So I think it's a whole team issue, right? So there's patience in let's hope to God they fire their hitting coach and get a new approach in there because whatever they're doing isn't working. Secondly, what are you going to do with him? Just bench him? Because you can't trade him at this point. He has no value.
Yep.
You're not going to drop him because then somebody's going to pick him up for free or with limited, fab money. And then when he figures it out, you're going to be pissed. Right? I still believe in the talent. The talent is still there. It's just whatever approach they're using in Toronto isn't working. So as much as it's killing you, you got to wait it out because I mean, you could try to play the hot hand, but if you miss on a week, then all you've done is use up a waiver wire bid and not get anything in return. So I'm going to be patient with Bo Bichette.
I am panicking, but I am stuck with him. It's just exactly like you said. We're stuck. You are
I mean,
hopefully
you
you
have
can get
no
another
choice
option.
but to be patient at this point.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Like we can all panic, but panic doesn't really do you any good in this terrible situation. You want to know who has the best batting average on the team? The guy who's played 15 games is Danny Jansen. He's hitting 311.
Yep.
Davis Schneider is second on the team at 275.
Yep.
It's not ideal.
Yep. Another one that I think we're probably in the same boat with is Corbin Carroll. The home runs gone, slugging only 270. Does have at least 8 stolen bases, so he's giving fantasy managers a little bit of something there. Unlike Bichette, I think something's a little wonky with a particular body part of Carroll. I think something's a little odd with that shoulder. I can't confirm it, but everything I look at, that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, since that shoulder injury, all of his metrics have dropped.
Yep.
Like, sure, he put up a spectacular rookie year. A lot of the attention was on steals, as well as should be. Stealing 50 bags is not a small feat. Um, but the hitting part of it, since that shoulder injury, where they were like, "Yeah, it's probably bad enough to put him on the IL, but we're not going to because we also can't lose his bat in the lineup, and we'll just inject him with horse tranquilizer and hope everything is good." I'm not sure that's worked out very well at this point. Not to mention he's got kind of a weird approach when he stands there. Like the bat seems like it has to travel more than it should. I have to move my cat again. She's very insistent on joining the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think it's a shoulder thing. I don't know what we're. It's kind of a Bo Bichette situation. Like what do we? Do you trade him and tell somebody, hey man, he can figure it out, so I want a top tier piece for him? Because right now the value doesn't suggest that you would get a top tier piece.
Yeah. I think he is better. He is better struggling, even if you have to bench him. He is better struggling on your bench than you moving him for pennies on the
Correct.
dollar with him turning it around. Like even here in May, he's hitting 261 so far to begin May, but still it's only a 391 slug. It's just the pop's not there.
He's hit a couple of homers, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
I think he hit a 3-run homer 2 nights ago. Granted, it was in Cincinnati, so I'm not sure it really counts. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there's something going on with his shoulder still. I don't think it's quite right.
Yep. And on the mound, we got Michael King, sensation at the end of the season last year. Really interesting. Last year, he was a sinker sweeper guy, as I'm looking at it here. This year, he's using his two most infrequently used pitches last year, albeit still like 20 and 15% of the time. San Diego's turned him into a four-seam changeup guy and dropped the usage of sinker sweeper. He still uses them, but they've switched up his pitch mix a little bit here, and the walk rate has jumped. The expected ERA is even worse than his 4.29 ERA. Really, the walks have just punished him. He had that game where he walked 7 against the Giants, and even so, like his last start, he didn't walk any Diamondbacks somehow. So maybe that's the turning point. But prior to that, multiple walks in every start but one prior to that point. So for me, I'm going to give a little bit of patience towards King, especially if he had a good outing last time, if that continues, but strikeouts are down a little bit. I don't really love that per se. And the walk rates are up. A lot of the metrics are going the wrong way. I'm still giving him a little bit of patience, but I'm not very confident in King moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at his game log, he's played the Dodgers twice already. He played the Giants back to back. The first one was a 7-walk game. The second one was 7 innings, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts.
Went to Coors.
Yeah, he went to Coors. That wasn't a great day.
Red hot Philly.
Right. The Brewers, a lot of these, by the way, are also on the road. He's only pitched at home twice. And he looked decent against the Diamondbacks, but again, the Diamondbacks are so streaky right now offensively.
Yeah.
Like they have a positive run differential, but they lost to the Padres in one game, I think 12-1, and then they beat them 11-4 the next day. So that's the kind of offense you're dealing with Arizona. I would be patient. I think they're going to figure this pitch mix thing out. But if they don't, then you got to start thinking about what you're doing with them, because it also, I was talking to a colleague, Ed Rouse, the other day on Monday Night Rants. He's a big Padres fan. It also strikes me as the Padres try to be the smartest team in the room, and they're not, because if you think about how many shortstops they actually have on the field in their normal lineup, it's like all of them. Fernando Tatis in right field is a former shortstop. Jackson Merrill in center field, shortstop. Who's it? Jurickson Profars in left, shortstop. Xander Bogaerts is at second. He's a shortstop. Ha-Sung Kim can play everywhere, including shortstop. Manny Machado came up as a shortstop and moved to third base. So, like, they have two other. The only reason they traded C.J. Abrams is because I don't think they had room for him. I guess I don't know. um, but I feel like they try to just get too cute with things and mess with things just to mess with them. And so hopefully for Michael King, they turn it around because he was flat out amazing last year to watch. And it's also interesting that he switches leagues and then the team changes his pitch mix. Like somebody's going to know what he threw last year, but like nobody saw him. They were in different leagues, so it is a little interesting on the pitch mix.
Yeah, and since we mentioned the Padres here, I don't have this in the I forgot to put this in the show sheet, but I'll get your take on it. With the Padres making the deal for Luis Arias. How do you think the return was for Miami? Like your thoughts on that trade? Like what do you think?
I think
Aside
it's
from the
pretty good.
fact that the president came out and said we're not making the playoffs in May, but other than we're going to remove that from it, which they're not. But
Well,
let's
I mean,
just
they
look at the
weren't
deal.
going to begin. I mean, they were never going to outdo the Phillies or the Braves
Yeah.
for a top two in the division, which you basically have to do if you have any shot of getting to the playoffs. They probably weren't going to outdo the Mets or the. I mean, they could outdo the Nats, but yeah, there's the cat in the background, by the way, for those of you watching. Um, I think it was a pretty good return. Now they got that good of a return because they're paying Luis Arias to not play for them.
Yep.
So there's that. I do find it an interesting move for the Padres though.
Mm-hmm.
Because did you really need a guy who just gets on base?
Better than someone who doesn't.
I mean, okay, but it wasn't that supposed to be Kim's job and wasn't that supposed to be who the heck's playing first? I'm blanking on it. Jake Cronenworth.
Yeah.
Like outside of making contact with a baseball, does Luis Arias really do anything for you? Because I don't think you're going to play him in the field over anybody that's in any of the second, short, or third spots.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a contact hitting, no power DH. It's just an interesting way to build a lineup. But the Padres keep drafting and signing people, so I don't think their farm system's going to really take a hit. And for Miami, you can develop everybody you want, but if you can't get them to stay healthy, it doesn't really matter because Edward Cabrera landed back on the IL again. Ryan Peepo, I mean, I know this is a race, but Peepo is on the IL again. These Florida teams are developing guys, but they can't keep them healthy.
Yep. Interesting. Well, Matt, let's wrap up this week. Let's talk about some waiver wire pickups and weekend streaming options. If you need some help, maybe you lost Trea Turner, maybe you lost, I don't know, anybody else in baseball because everyone's injured at this point, and you need a hot bat to pick up. Who is one of the guys that you are taking a look at, my friend?
I'm going to look to Detroit. I know I just crapped on their offense earlier in the pod, but Andy Ibanez is hot right now. That's all this is. 1 week flyer. Get him while he's hot. If he stays hot longer than that, fine. He has 2 home runs. Now, both of them came in the last game he played. He hadn't had an extra base hit for 13 games. Then he got hot in one game. He went 4 for 4 with 2 homers, a double, and 4 RBI over Cleveland in the last game he played. The good news, though, is he qualifies at second base and outfield. So you get some interesting position eligibility there. And if his bat stays hot, which he's currently hitting 342 with a 526 slug, he could work his way into a platoon with Colt Keith at second base because Colt Keith hasn't exactly taken off the way we figured he would.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need a bat because you just lost a middle infielder to injury this week or an outfielder to injury this week, Ibanez is only rostered in 8% of Fantrax leagues. So he's out there for good reason, but take a flyer for a 1 week hot streak.
Yeah, another one I'm looking at, Luis Garcia Jr. of your Washington Nationals. Over the last 7, hitting 417 with a 750 slug, hitting a little bit with some pop, driving in guys, scored a little bit himself, and he's even stolen a couple of bases. And very, very quietly for the year, up to a 321 average with 3 homers and 7 stolen bases. Interesting. He is helping my NFBC TGFBI team immensely.
Yeah, he was a little sketchy coming into the season with Davey Martinez having to have daily conversations with him in spring training about what you can't do on a baseball field that he should already know.
Mm-hmm.
Seems a little delayed, but seems like he's figuring it out. So that's good news. Because a young middle infield tandem of Luis Garcia and CJ Abrams could be fun if Garcia keeps this up and actually turns a corner.
And if you need catching help, just take Willson Contreras' replacement. Ivan Herrera should get plenty of at-bats hitting right around the heart of the order for
I
St. Louis.
grabbed Ivan Herrera in a dynasty league off the waiver wire a couple of weeks ago when Contreras was he was ill, right? He was out a few games.
Yep.
Picked him up. So now my dynasty catchers right now are Ivan Herrera and Ryan Jeffers.
That'll do it.
Yeah, I like it.
That'll do the trick. And last but not least, talk about some streamers here. We're both looking to some weekend starts. I'll let you go first again.
I'm going to pick on Kansas City. Yes, the team that has been making notes this week for one of the best run differentials in baseball. And that's true. They do have that. However, they suck against lefties. And so we're going to pick on them on Sunday when they face Patrick Sandoval of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Look, Sandoval hasn't been great this year. He's been okay. But facing a team that is terrible against lefties. I mean, they have a 77 WRC plus against lefties this year. That's not great. 100 is league average. They're 23% worse than league average. 230 average puts them in the bottom third of teams against lefties. 290 OBP puts them in the bottom 5 of baseball in that category. 280 WOBA is about the same thing. So they just don't hit lefties very well. And the lineup's a little bit spurty right now, which you would figure because a couple of their big bats are out. So we'll pick on the Royals. We'll go with Patrick Sandoval to get you a decent start. Not going to be a world beater. Decent start's all we need.
I'm going to pick against Toronto. I'm going to look to Simeon Woods Richardson. Toronto's below average against righties this year, and SWR has just been getting the job done of late. No other way around at 1.74 ERA, 5+ strikeouts, and 3 of 4, and no more than 2 earned runs allowed in any start so far this year. And I'll go with another freebie because he's owned in like 0% of leagues, but he's getting the call. Paul Skenes, weekend streamer for you, who's owned in probably 97% of leagues at this point. So
basically, like,
I want to throw his name out there because Pittsburgh did call him up. So Matt, let me ask you this.
Also, now I can put it in SEO, which will help. So that works.
Yeah, and Skenes will be ready to go. He'll pitch for the Pirates on Saturday against the Cubs. Little division showdown at PNC Park. Should be excited nonetheless. Matt, let's wrap it up with this. What kind of debut? This is probably one of the more.
It's the most. So this question's been on X a lot. What's the last most hyped pitching prospect debut? And it's not just because I'm a Nationals fan, but like I keep coming back to Strasburg.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when's the last time a bona fide, guaranteed, does not matter what other hitter is in the draft, number 1 overall pick pitcher? Has there been? The last one was Strasburg.
Yeah.
Right? He was the absolute bona fide, had to go number 1 overall pick in the 09 draft. And then Nats got the bona fide number 1 overall in the next one, which was Bryce Harper. But Strasburg's debut was phenomenal. I think he had 15 strikeouts in that one. 14 strikeouts.
14 sounds right.
Something like that. He probably should have had a couple others, but the ump didn't believe he could bend a curveball the way he was bending a curveball. So yeah. Some of the curveballs did not get counted for strike threes. But I would say we could be in line for a Strasburg type debut. Now, I hope to God that Paul Skenes does not have the injury history that Strasburg has, because at his peak in 2019, Strasburg was a true bona fide, absolute ace of that staff.
Yep.
If Skenes can stay healthy, this could be a really, really special guy to watch. He's just straight up filthy.
And it was 14 strikeouts for Strasburg in his debut over 7 innings for the Nats. Yes, I agree. I think this is one of the most hyped up, anticipated debuts that we've had ever since he made like 2 starts at the level he was at previously, it was Paul Skenes' watch. When's he coming up? When's he coming up? I mean, he was being drafted early with no guaranteed call up. Everyone was just, they want the generational.
I mean, I guess the next one, which is a little, I mean, we had one this year in Yamamoto, but that's a little unfair because he was like a professional. I mean, he pitched for 7 years in the MPB, which is basically the second best baseball league in the world. Same thing for Shohei. Like, there was a lot of fanfare, but that was for a totally different reason because, like, it's Babe Ruth, right? It's the guy can hit and pitch. And again, he was a professional when he when he came over. So talking about pure prospect starting pitching debut, the last one that comes to mind is Strasburg.
Yeah,
which says something because that was in what, 2011? 2010. He was drafted in 2009.
I think it was 2010.
May have been 10.
Let's see.
10 or 11. It's one of the two. I can't remember if it took him a year and change to make it.
June 8th, 2010, Strasburg made his incredibly highly anticipated MLB debut.
That's a double.
Shout out Baseball America for that one. That's just the first blurb I saw.
Right, but this says something that Paul Skenes 14 years later is the next most hyped. Right? I mean, can you think of anyone in between?
No, not to this level. And then last thing on Skenes before we roll here, from this point forward, top 20, top 15, top 25 arm, what kind of
probably a top 25 starting pitcher from this point forward.
I would say so as well, I think.
Because he's not going back down. We know that.
Yep.
And like, the stuff is legit. It's not like he was preying on minor league. I mean, when I saw him live, the lineup he faced had a couple of former MLB players in it and a couple of the better hitting prospects for the Royals and made them look silly. So
it'll be a spectacle nonetheless.
Also, he gets a Cubs team without Cody Bellinger in it. Sea's not in the lineup.
And at home.
So, there is that, because I'm pretty sure Strasburg faced a pretty starting lineup when he debuted too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it will be, like I said, it'll be a spectacle nonetheless. It'll be exciting. But for your fantasy teams this weekend, take a look at Simeon Woods, Richardson, Patrick Sandoval as streamers, Andy Ibanez, and Luis Garcia Jr., Ivan Herrera if you need a little help with the bat. We'll keep an eye out on some turnarounds, hopefully, for the likes of Bo Bichette and Corbin Carroll. But for any line of decisions and questions that you may have, check us out in the Fantasy Alarm Discord channel. If you're an All-Pro subscriber, you can get access to the Discord, access to our brains. We can help you with your team, lineups, trades, etc. So make sure you check that out. Like and subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you are listening to us talk about the fantasy baseball landscape. And last but not least, on your to-do action items, give Matt Selz a follow on X at the Selzman. I am over on X at Colby R. Conway. Paul Skenes Day is coming shortly, so get excited. Stay tuned. We'll be watching, and we will see you next Thursday with the newest edition of Caught Stealing.